blue shirt day for World Catholic Education Day. Hey guys! Safety glasses in the shop, right? Okay. So if you recall, this is our piece from last class. I scraped the glue off while it was still easy to come off, so that glue's gone. Got a little bit on the back we can clean up. We're going to use a glue scraper for that. Okay, so for this, what I like to do is set this up so it's not going to move, and I'll just use the butt of my vise to pull up against, and the glue scraper we're going to put down and we're going to pull towards ourselves to scrape off our excess glue, okay? So I can use the handle, I can use the glue scraper, but they pulls in a motion, so you look at the blade, you can turn this around when one side gets full, but it always cuts this direction. So we're going to scrape our glue off. This glue hardens harder than the wood, and it can damage the knives of my planer. So we're going to go to the planer, just like we saw in our safety quiz, and we're going to do finished thickness. And the reason for this is we want to clean it all up before we cut it out in the bandsaw, so it's just the right thickness so we can just go ahead and router and drill at the end. We've got about 7/8, which is great. We can take a little bit off the off our rough side that wasn't jointed. Check mark, this is our jointed side. We're going to plane off this other side nice and clean to 3/4. So this is nice. We started with about a 1-inch piece. We're going to plane it down to 3/4 thick. All the plans, every part on the whole thing, with the exception of one little support block, is 3/4 thick. Okay, so this is our big planer here. We're going to feed in our piece here. We're going to put our check mark side down on the table. And there's knives inside that are going to cut the top of my piece nice and smooth. So I put my good side down and my rough side up, and the knives are going to cut this. So for my height setting right here, I'm going to set this counter to 3/4 of an inch, 19 millimeters, according to my little cheat sheet here, is number 42 on the counter. So because this is 7/8 board, I'm going to go straight to 3/4 because it's pretty soft wood. So I'm going to reset, start it up, and I'm going to move my counter. My table is going to come all the way up to 42 on my counter here. 40. Okay, let's go 45 to start. And then if we need to flip it over and touch up the other side, we can. Okay? So get ready to duck if the wood comes flying out and kicks back, it's going to hit you in the face. Nice and smooth, nice and straight. So I can flip it up and clean up the other side if I want. This guy here, we're going to find a suitable spot on our workpiece to avoid some cracks, which is there. Love it when a plan comes together. We're going to hold this very steady, and we're going to trace this guy out. Making sure it's flat on my workpiece. Now, if you look closely, the ends of this is where the seat gets screwed onto. So these are very flat. So in order to keep these flat, I'm going to make some marks here to show myself where to turn on the bandsaw. If I mark out these hinge points, these turning points on my bandsaw, then I know the flat spots. Okay? At the end of the day, cedar is one of those products that you can leave out in the rain for years and it won't rot. Cedar has a natural sort of like an anti-rotting agent in it. It's the tannins in the wood prevents it from spoiling, from mildewing, from rotting. Other woods will rot in rain. Cedar get wet, dry out, get wet, dry out. It'll crack, it'll gray, but it won't rot. And that's why we use cedar for outdoor projects. Okay, so this is the bandsaw. The blade is here. it's a big wheel and it's in a bend. So the wheel spins down and cuts in a downward motion. Very safe tool. You're less likely to get kickback because the blade's going down, it's not coming towards you. It's also easy to cut curves on because the thinner the blade, the tighter the curves you can cut. So you can cut wavy cuts. So the three things you need to remember for your quiz for the bandsaw are as follows. Don't put your hand in the path of the blade. Don't put your hand to the right of the blade. And if you're doing really sharp curves, make relief cuts. Relief cuts are when we cut into our project towards our line so that as we cut along the line, those pieces fall out. Relief cuts take the pressure off the blade. They keep us from having to back out of a very long cut in case we make a mistake or we just have a dead end cut. Relief cuts can prevent that. The hand to the right of the blade, if this blade breaks, because of the motion of this blade this way, the blade is going to pop out the side on the right. It's going to hit the table and it's going to spike out to the right side. Now the blade, of course, is a blade. It's got sharp teeth, and if it pops out to the right in my hands here, it's going to go across my hand, lacerate my hand. And to the left is fine. The left side it's like the passing lane. You could pass people on the left side, but you should never pass people on the right side. So this long curve here, we have a very long cut. We're going to make relief cuts this direction to relieve that long cut. We're going to make some cuts in here to relieve these sharp cuts. And we're going to go ahead and make those relief cuts. The blade guard, we have a lock on the back, and the blade guard moves up and down. When you're setting your blade guard, you want to be able to be as low as you can without hitting the wood. So the general rule is bring it down until it hits the wood and then raise the guard up till you can't get a pencil underneath it. So I'm going to go back down a little bit. I can't get my pencil under it, but my wood slides freely underneath the guard and the bearings here. Okay. And I'm just going to stop just short of my line. Well, wasn't that a good plan, eh? Position the leg right there. Get rid of the moldy oldie stuff. And I'm pretty well ready to go. So let's start cutting. I'm going to start with a nice, easy, long cut, this one here, and we'll show you how that works. So as I cut, I'm going to push and turn, push and turn. If I turn, I'll twist the blade and I might even break it. If I push and turn, it'll glide along nicely and there will be no pressure on the blade. Okay, reach out and get my piece off the back. Okay, now I left quite a bit of line there just to show you what I want to see. I actually want to see the pencil line and a little bit extra for sanding. We're going to carry on. We're going to do this inside cut and then around the front of our chair where the seat slats have to belong. Okay, now I've come to my first turn as far as my straight cuts go. So I'm going to cut as straight as I can along the line. That one comes out, and I can do my next straight cut. And I'm keeping my hand away from the right side of the blade. Okay, now I can make one more, probably not. So we're going to have to turn this around and go the other way. Okay, so we're almost there. We got the top, we got the front, all these nice flat spots for my seat slats to sit on. We're going to do this long curve on the outside and then one off the end. Keeping my hand to the left side of the blade. I can move this scrap wood with my first piece. Always my hands to the left of the blade. And finally, my last little cut here. It's actually a pretty important cut because this part sits on the ground and this part is in the air. So we want that to be nice and straight, nice and flat. So the very first thing, we're going to do an inside curve on our spindle sander. So a spindle sander is literally a spindle. It's round, and it can do inside curves very nicely. So these inside curves are difficult to do with a flat belt sander. So an inside curve I'm going to do on a round bit of sandpaper, the spindle sander here. So the main thing with the spindle sander you want to remember is dust collection, but also a hand width away from your spindle as it turns, and never let go of this while it's in contact. Okay, pretty good. Now you never want to sit in one spot. You'll get a wave going. So I'm always feeding it back and forth along the spindle sander. Very simple tool, but the students take it for granted and they get injured the most on our spindle sander, believe it or not. So we have two belt sander, disc sander combinations, and we can use either or. So I'll run you through both of them. So the disc sander here is a disc, and it spins. The rotation, as it says in the arrow here, is this way. If I put my piece on this side, it's going to lift it up. If I put my piece on this half of the disc, it's going to push it down against the table, which is safe. So use the left half of this disc sander. Same with the other disc sander. Okay, the black one over there. This is our belt sander. I'll show you that after. Okay, so we'll do that first. We'll do this outer edge, watching my pencil line the whole time on the disc sander. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to work it back and forth there. Okay, good. Nice and smooth. Anything else like the disc sander marks I can get with the hand sander, with something like that. So watching my pencil line closely, I can do the bottom, set nice and flat. And we'll quickly show you the belt sander. The belt sander is here. I can go along and I can do some of these edges if I want. This is an eraser. I want to go along and try to clean up the belt sander. And our spindle, or our disc sander. So it doesn't get too built up with dust. So next question on the quiz, we got two types of holes in our project. So one, we're going to put a hole in the leg for the screws to go through and into the next piece. And then we're going to put a hole in the leg for the screws to go through another piece into this piece. So it's all about where the screw starts and where the screw stops. Where the screw starts is a countersinking hole. Where the screw ends is a pilot hole. A pilot hole is small. We want the screw to end there nice and tight. A clearance hole is larger. We want the screw to start there, and the screw head needs to be accommodated. It needs to fit in there nice, so the hole is going to be bigger. Clearance holes, countersink. We're going to countersink these 4 holes. The screw head is going to stop here. So the screw is going to go through this piece into another piece. And in this case, it's the back support A. So if I have a back support A, right here, these screws are going to go through our leg into this piece. Now this one's on the inside, this one's on the outside. It's going to go right there. The screw is going to go through leg J into leg D. So I put countersink holes on this one. It says countersink. The countersink holes go onto this piece, and the holes on my leg D are called pilot holes. So pilot holes are smaller. It's where the screw stops. Any questions about that? No questions. Okay, good. Wow, I hope I explained that well enough. So what we're gonna do is mark 4 holes to countersink and these 4 holes to pilot hole. So I have a little poker tool. Now on templates like this where they're pre-drilled, it's really nice to have a tool like this that can mark the wood for me. So one thing I want to consider before I lay this out is when I look at this leg, I got 2 of these legs, right? Which side do I want to see on the outside of my chair? These holes are going to go on the outside of my chair. So I'm going to have the holes on the outside of this one, but they're going to be opposite on my other leg. So if I like the looks of this, I can put the holes in here. If I like the looks of this, I can put the holes in here. But my other piece is going to be a mirror image because I need a left leg and a right leg to do this. This is my outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my template on face up. Now if I was doing the other side, I'd put my template on face down and mark those holes to make that mirror image. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you so much. So I'm going to put my template face side up on this one. I'm going to line up some corners, make sure it's nice and straight, nice and flat. This is super crucial because this is going to determine whether or not my chair, sits nice and straight. I think I've got a knot. That one's really tough. Yeah. So it's going to get tougher. Now, this is a center punch. It's got a hammering end. You hammer this end's pointy. It makes a little spot for the drill bit to go. Not too crucial on softwood, but we do it anyways to get you used to it. More so important on hardwood and metals, but hey, we do it because it makes layout easy. Now another note, sometimes the students, if they're doing this and then the bell rings, I want them to mark and they can do a large circle for a countersink, or they can literally label CS, countersink these holes. Do not pilot hole these holes, okay? Because the plans say right here, countersink these holes right here, so that's going to be fun. You could hear the difference. It barely goes in. That wood is super hard. The reason I put it there is because leg J is going to cover that spot, so you won't even see that big ugly knot. So that's why I put this side facing up. Okay, we're ready to drill. 2 types of drill bits Mr. Kawai was awesome enough to bring over for us. We have a countersinking bit and we have a pilot hole bit, okay? A pilot hole bit is going to be less than 1/8 our screw bit, and we go 1/8. The screw is just going to slide in and out. It's not going to grab. So we need to go smaller than 1/8. Our countersinking bit is huge. This is a number 10 actually. We might go a little smaller than that. This countersinking bit is going to make a taper for the screw head so the wood doesn't split there either. But the screw is going to slide through this hole and then it's going to screw into this hole and hold. So the screw doesn't hold in this hole. The screw holds in this hole. Thank you. But I don't want to drill all the way through my pilot holes. So if I do a pilot hole all the way through, I'm going to see the hole on the other side. I don't want to see a hole. I want my screw to stop there. So I can put some tape on the drill bit. I can drop the shank down until it's not quite poking through. I can do that as well. Okay, a couple different ways to do this. I'd like to see you guys label the drill bit. So a couple different ways. We'll show you a little life hack. We're going to make a jiffy mark right where I want my drill bit to stop so that I don't poke through. And we're going to go nice and slow, nice and fast with our drill speed, but slow with our feed speed. And I've just got some jiffy on my drill bit where I want that to stop through into the table. So I'm going to stop right at my mark. Done. Pilot hole done. Pilot hole here. Nice and straight. Done. Hopefully not poking through the other side. Ah! We went through. So 2 hands. Use 2 hands. Better control, okay? So Mr. Lawrence made a boo-boo. That's instructive. So we're going to use 2 hands. And so what it wants to do is, as you're drilling, it wants to blow through the other side. So you have to have really good control. That's why I say use 2 hands. Make sure that they'll straight up and down. And we're going to drill in, and we're going to drill out. Now some students drill in, and then they pull out, and you'll break the bit. Some students drill in, forward, then put it in reverse, and then reverse out. No need. In order to clear the hole properly, you're going to drill in and drill out. Straight in, straight out. Okay, now for my countersinking hole, that one's going to go right through my workpiece. So I got a couple of options. I can hang it off the table and clamp it here. I can put it over a vise something like that, where I've got a hole underneath. Either works fine. The main thing is I don't drill into my table. Don't do that, or your shop teacher will get mad at you. So you want to line up your 3-jaw chuck on the flat spots on your bit, like so, and drill away. Okay, so we're going to one hand on top, and we're going to drill until there's just enough taper there for a screw head to fit in nicely. If I go too deep, I won't have enough meat there for my, there's my countersink hole. So we've got 4 clearance holes for the screw head to fit into. It's tapered, you can see. 4 pilot holes for the screw end to go into. So this part's going to get secured to another piece. And last but not least, router time. So a router, last question on the quiz, is a shaper tool that can take the edge off of my workpiece very easily, very uniformly, very nicely without me having to spend years on a sander. What I'm not going to router is here, where the seat slats are going to go. My seat slats, my long pieces of wood that I'm sitting on, are going to go here. I'm not going to router this part because I want a nice, flat, wide, or thick surface to screw onto. If I router these edges, a quick look at the router bit itself, it has a curve on it. So the mirror image of this curve is going to be transferred onto my workpiece edge. So last but not least, need our dust collection a little closer. Maybe we can get some of that. We'll see. Let's fire it up. So I'm going to start here. Countersink the outside. Yeah. Big piece D is done. I can sand this, I can make it a little bit nicer, but it's cedar, so I'm not too worried. Flat spots for my seat slats, countersink pilot hole. I've got a routered edge here. On the outside, you can see what that profile there turned out very nice, smooth and uniform, all the way along here. And that's just for looks, and so you don't have a jagged edge, so nobody cuts themselves, no slivers, and it saves us a little time with the sanding. So that's the nice thing about the router. That's what it does for me. All right, that's the end of the class. If you have a question, you can email me. We won't keep people on here for longer than they need to. So thanks for signing in. Thanks for watching. Be safe. God bless, and have a great day.